Motion to accept the agenda. No additions. Gladden and Reach. All in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. So for the Reeves report, a number of interesting seminars, probably the one on infrastructure at the AMO convention was the one that I related to probably the best. Met up with a number of cabinet ministers and especially senior staff from Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. They were there, and it was probably easier talking to them in the halls than it was getting the sessions booked. So I think it was a worthwhile conference. Moving on to reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Reach and Campbell. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have a deputation. Molly, do you want to
Sure.
introduce it?
Sure. I just want to welcome Doug Kuyvenhoven. Doug is a member of the Wingham BIA, as you know, newly formed at the beginning of the year. Doug has been a very supportive member of the BIA. He has also taken the lead in what the committee is calling a curb appeal committee. They've been doing a lot of great stuff around Wingham. And so I won't say anything more because pictures are worth 1,000 words, and Doug has some great pictures to share with us. So thank you for joining us.
All right, good to be here. This is going to be the fun part of your meeting tonight. This is your highlight. Yeah, as Connie said, the BIA formed a curb appeal committee, and that committee is composed of Gary Balla, Lisa Herndon, and myself. And the vision that we created for the committee is to have all of our businesses and streetscapes as attractive and approachable as possible. So then we kind of looked at what can we do and what to target in the town. And we kind of figured let's go where the maximum impact can be. And so we noticed a lot of weeds growing around town that were causing just not good visually. So we thought we'd attack the weeds. Painting, we noticed areas that were rusting that could use a fresh coat of paint. And vacant storefronts that were just dusty and dirty and empty. We thought let's attack those three things. We figured we could write letters to people, but we figured, yeah, it's probably faster and quicker and more efficient to get it done with volunteers. So we ran two events, July 19 and 20, we ran a Weed Whack Wingham event, and we just went after all the weeds. And then August the 10th, we did a Paint the Town event. And so we painted the town. We even got some press coverage thanks to the Wingham Advance Times there. And if you read the paper last week. So I'm just going to show you photos of the before and afters of what was done there. And hopefully this shows up. There. No signal. Oh, there we go. So just go to full screen for a moment here. Tried to sort of get things fired up. One of our members, unnamed of our committee, went into the subway and spent 3 hours one evening. And this is a before, and that's an after. Before, after, before, after. And so just a couple hours with a weed eater and a chainsaw, and things changed dramatically at the little subway plaza there. So then the official cleanup was July 19 and 20. There was about 8 volunteers that came out Friday night, and 2 volunteers on the Saturday morning. This was between Davidson Well Drilling and Ideal Supply, before and after. A bit of cleanup around. This is beside Pletch Electric, between Pletch and the trail, before and after. Just weeds growing around the rocks there. cutting the grass out there. Just even, you know, small bits of weeds here and there around the main street cleaned up. Coffee culture, probably a trailer load that came out of there. And then in front of Maitland Dental, dry cleaners, and there was the Anchor Pub there before and after. We conveniently ended at the Friday evening at the pub, so we convened our meeting inside after that. And around behind the stores as well, along the core, downtown core, clean things up. Down at the main street there at, what is it, Grumpy's, there was vines growing up around and got that all nicely cleaned up along the sidewalk as well. CIBC, the old CIBC bank, somewhere under there, there's a brick planter. There it is. And the old sand store, the weeds were growing up along there, so we cleaned up in there. This was probably the most remarkable makeover. This is Godfather's. Notice the tree that's growing up over top of God, so you can only see fathers. And the whole planter there. This is before, after. Remarkable change. All of what you see got done in one night with volunteers, and then a little bit more on the Saturday morning. This is by the Frosty Queen, the leaves growing around the bollards there. Just got that cleaned up as well. And in behind the Frosty Queen, a little bit of cleanup there. The old Kerr property, just cleaned up around those concrete posts. This is the Cullen property. Cleaned up around there, a bit of a no man's land between the dollar store and Cullen's. Some guy with Kubota went flying through there and cleaned that up. So that was what we did on July the 19th. Then on the August the 10th, we had one group of volunteers. There's Lisa and my wife Debbie and Jen from the family tree with her son. And they decorated storefronts. So this was the old Flower Nook, I think it was, what was after that. So they did if you walk by, there's a back to school theme that was done there, and a little bit of advertising for some of the BIA members about school supplies. And this was the old Bakelard Jewelers store. I'm not sure who was in there after that. And a fall theme was put in there, and just the windows were really dirty too, so they were all clean at the same time. And the store right next to it also with a fall theme. And there's more storefronts that they plan on doing. Then August the 10th, this was the Paint the Town event. And this is the group that all volunteered, and some guy behind the camera. The beer store sign, the liquor store sign, we went everywhere. Across from the post office, the guardrails, post office, drain pipe. These are photos just of the volunteers in action. And we had a black team, a gray team, and a brown team, which was the color that they were painting. And the black team was going crazy. I had to run down the street looking all over for black things to paint. We found the cannon. And some of the store owners that we did work for, they actually donated money, and that pretty much covered the cost of the paint. The Lyceum Theater,
100%, 150% better.
yeah. So here's your before-after photos. Maybe not too easy to see with the light, but the beer store sign was just plain rusty. Right down the base, there was hardly any paint on it. There it is, nice and shiny. I want to get a wrench out and straighten it yet, but it's got a bit of a tilt. The out sign was just green and rusty, got painted up. The LCBO sign was kind of gray and faded, and there it is. They actually came out and gave us $20 on the spot. The works department, the gray team was advancing pretty quick. They were looking for things to do, so I sent them over to do that one. Flagpole in front of the fire hall. Light posts, entrance to the Crookshank Park, before, after. The historic plaque, before, after. And in front of the fountain, before, after. It's amazing, just a fresh coat of paint makes such a difference. Subway sign, that was kind of rusty, and now it's all nice and shiny. And the bollards were painted previously. Again, the black team was looking for things to do, so this was a divider between the fire department and coffee culture. Got a nice fresh coat of paint there. And some of the businesses, Maitland Family Dental, they donated the cost of paint for having their hand real nicely painted. and the Glacier Physiotherapy before, after. Ooh, they were just totally marveled at the workmanship there. And right across from the post office, those guardrails, the guardrail and the posts, guardrail and the posts, and we even into the backside. So, this post always bugged me, personally. So it was fun to get this out of the way. That's before, that's the drain pipe, and after, just nice white coat of paint, cleaned up and painted. The posts, I'm told by the post office they're actually going to remove those posts somewhere along the line. So, but we painted them anyway. The cannon in front of the museum, nicely painted. The historic plaque in front of the museum, the post got repainted. The guitars on the sign there got painted. The old McIntyre Bakery, that beautiful storefront with that one corner post was not painted. It is now. And then around the Veterans Road monument there, the posts all got a fresh coat of paint. Those lamp posts, you can't see it too well, but it's really rusty along the bottom, and now it's just sparkling. That post as well rusted quite a bit along the bottom, nice and sparkling. Across the street at the old PUC building, those two are also painted. All the down the main street, all the benches got a fresh coat of Thompson Sealer. And there's Licensed Theater. Take a close look at that. That was a bit of an eyesore. Now it's been painted just a couple hours and it's finished. Gray team kind of went behind stores everywhere. Keel Insurance was a little rusty railing that got cleaned up. And this is over by Frosty Clean. The bollards, you saw previously we got rid of the weeds around the bollards, but this time now we went in and actually painted them all up, nice fresh coat of paint, and the chains were painted as well. And McTavish donated a bit towards our paint cost, and we even swept it for them. Wasn't that nice? All swept up. That's it. That is the fun part of the show for tonight. Next phases, we're looking at flower boxes for the main street and ordering. Or if you look in front of the Anchor Pub or the gift chest, they've got these nice little flower boxes, and so we're looking at doing an order form and a mass purchase of flower boxes where each business buys flower boxes for the front of their storefront if it works for their storefront, and then working with the Horticultural Society and the Homecoming with what kind of flowers to put and get them all looking really nice for homecoming, so that you'll have all these storefronts with these flower baskets and blooming flowers for next year. So we're working on that for next year. The other thing is some of the buildings on the main drag need quite a bit of tender loving care, maybe even more than tender loving care. They need some major repair. And so trying to organize a painting contractor and a general contractor, and renting a Zoom boom, like a 60-foot Zoom, like we've got for the town hall here, for like a month. It's a lot cheaper to do it by the month, and then splitting the costs appropriately with each of the storefront owners. And you have to get that hoarding, that stuff that's over top of the walkway, so nobody gets injured when you're working above. So if we work together with all the building owners in sharing the costs and doing that, we might be able to get it done quite inexpensively. And with the push for homecoming, it's kind of a good excuse to say, hey, let's get the main street looking fantastic. And so that's something that our committee is going to do, approach each of the landlords, building owners, tenants, or whatever, and see if we can work together and make that happen. So, and that'll be kind of for May, June of next year is what we'll be targeting to get that done for. So that is a little bit of fun news from the Wingham BIA. And actually, you know, the volunteers had a riot. Like we just had fun doing it. You feel so good. One of them said, "Painting is instant gratification." You know, it is. So that's it. Any questions?
Well, I think I'm speaking for everyone when I say thank you very much for taking the lead in pulling volunteers together, and it just proves there's a lot of people who want the town to look good.
Yeah.
And we're only, 48 weeks away from homecoming.
calendar keeps moving, absolutely.
Bernie?
Doug, I'd like just to mention that just the effect you do have on the good work you do. Saturday afternoon, before I went to the cottage, I stopped at Godfather's for a quick bite. They had somebody out there taking care of that little garden where you were doing all the cutting, and that right away they've seen the results. They love what you've done, and so I know one business is picking up on it right away.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just wanted
that
to
was
know
really
that.
our hope too, that by getting it done, then the individual businesses would then kind of take a little more ownership. And even just the whole spirit of volunteerism, like as far as just individuals picking up garbage off the street, you know, just taking a little more self-pride in the town. You know, we can point to our works department and say they should do more, but you know, how much can they do? And really, I think we need more of volunteerism and the spirit of that coming back into our town. It's the only way we're really gonna get it done, and when it comes down to it, it's not that big of a job. So,
Dave?
I want to congratulate the BIA for the work you've done. I think it's fantastic. And going back a few months when there were the naysayers about the BIA and saying that it shouldn't fly, I think that number one, they owe you an apology because of the work you are doing and the volunteerism. And I think it's just fantastic that you're taking on what you're doing and showing us what can be done. Thank you.
well, it's a team effort, and I don't take any individual credit for it. And we're also actually, the church that I attend, the Maple River Community Church, they do those H2O events, Hands to Offer, and we've got one planned for September 21st, and we plan to be working with Phil Beard on the Wingham Trail extension and cleaning up the existing Wingham Trail and other stuff that we can do around town. And we're inviting the public to join us for this event as well. So we hope to see another little punch before winter. We can get a little more stuff done around, but it's fun, and we're honored to serve in that way.
Thank you very much, Doug. And please pass on our thanks to your team.
All right, yep. Okay, thank you very much.
Very good. Is there any business arising from previous meetings? Okay. And health and safety is just for our information. Okay, go to point 2 in the department reports, CAO clerk, campaign 14-19.
Okay, thank you, Reed. You have the report that I've submitted dealing with campaign 14-19, specifically the facility condition assessment as well as drawings. In speaking with my colleague, our Director of Recreation Facilities, I would like to propose that we table any discussion or motion regarding the drawings and Huron geomatics. We'd like to clarify where this fits in with campaign 14-19, and so we propose to bring this forward the September 3rd meeting. However, I would like to have a discussion with council tonight about the facility condition assessment.
Is that going to be an open or in the in-camera?
I know there is one item for in camera tonight dealing with personnel matter related to the town hall project, but not the campaign.
Okay, do you want more discussion now or later?
I'll start the discussion.
Okay.
I have some concerns about, again, going back to the financial picture with using this company. As we all know, there's some concerns about the town hall and the overrun on the expenditures of the town hall, and I asked to see the contract. We as a council all sat here and we agreed with Thor that we were going to do the front of the building and we were going to do the belfry of the building, and it was to be done complete and then give us a cost on it. Mr. Hallahan actually suggested that because of the cost of doing the belfry, we may want to just take it down, maybe take it down to the shed and let the works boys work on it, put it back another time. We were convinced by these gentlemen who are going to speak to us next week, I understand. But the problem is, when I was looking over the contract, I asked for the contract, and I got the contract. I started looking at the contract, because we know that we're looking at a $50,000 to $100,000 add-on to take care of the belfry, the frame of the belfry. And I'm looking at it, and it clearly on this pictorial that was given to the contractors to price out, it tells them to replace the top of it and the structure and that. Then when you get down to the actual frame, the frame the belfry sits on, the part that holds it all together, he just tells the contractors to confirm the condition and let us know how much it would cost. And I'm not sure that's what we hired him to do. I believe we hired him to tell the contractors and that X amount of money. So I'm going to reflect that $100,000 mistake there, and I'm going to say if we move this into a $2 million project, where do we go with that then? How much is this $2 million project going to cost? Because we did start at $125,000 with the town hall here, and I believe we're up over $300,000 now. And we were sent out calculations of around $60,000, $70,000 for the framing. The part that sets me back is the fact that it clearly states confirmed condition, dimensions, and spacing of existing belfry floor joints. It doesn't tell them to do anything. So the contractor did what he was told and said to fix that, it's going to be $60,000. We're going to hire a guy on that said, fix this and do this, and fix this and do this, and fix this and do this, and all, that might cost another $100,000. We'll just ignore that and we'll have to put it in later. That's the way I feel about it. So I just want to throw that out there and go from there.
We're premature discussing that when those people will be here September 3rd. That is the time.
I totally agree with you, Reed Vincent, and we are, and I did say we're going to discuss that at the time, but we're discussing spending money now on Memorial Hall. My concern is if we hire the gentleman that we've hired to do this, what is the cost going to be in the long run? I would prefer to put this off after we talk about the fact that I don't think this was properly done. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure they will tell me.
Well, we are, the 14-19 campaign, some of the Memorial Hall stuff, we are already pushing it back to the next meeting, or is it?
Yes, I'm proposing that the section in my report dealing with drawings and Huron geomatics be deferred, tabled until the September 3rd meeting for Pat and I to get a bit more information as to how their work will complement the work being done by Mr. Dingman if his company has chosen to complete the facility condition assessment. We should see if
Councillor McGowan?
I was just going to say that I know that when Mr. Dingman came to speak to us, he was very clear that, you know, until they really got in pulling things apart, which is the case with any old building. That's what you get. I mean, to do an assessment, a thorough assessment that includes pulling things apart that you can't see, also gets into added costs. I mean, we could have taken that route, but it would have been a much more expensive route, and then we would have still had to pay for fix at the other end. So, I mean, those are sort of the things, the pitfalls you fall into with, you know, historic buildings. And we can discuss that later, but I'm prepared to, you know, deal with this other issue with the condition assessment. It needs to get done, so we know what we're, at least to start to look at what we're dealing with at
To know what we're dealing with.
Yes.
Councillor Biden?
I realize that we're going to be discussing this later, but we have an independent view presented by an engineering firm who tell us that in order to find those problems at the base of the tower would have cost another $30,000 in that first stage. And I think that's an indication of what we could face with any old building being refurbished. So I think we're jumping the gun if we're going to throw our hands up at this point.
Just one question that I'm going to respond. So Gary, tonight you're not asking for Dingman to have this contract for Memorial Hall?
It's our recommendation, which is the recommendation of Campaign 1419, that Tor Dingman be retained to complete facility condition assessment of Memorial Hall. It's important to note that the committee met with several consultants. The committee's preference is Tor Dingman. They like his approach. They like his outline of the services that he's going to provide. He likes the fact that he is going to consult with not just the Black Festival, but the community and other users of the facility. So it's the committee's preference to go with Tordin. Several months ago, council met informally with stakeholders from the community, from the festival. The council indicated at that time that they supported Campaign 1419. Council also indicated informally, I might add, that they would fund the facility condition assessment. It's Campaign 1419 committee's preference to go toward Dayton. And that is the basis of the recommendation that I'm making, which is on behalf of the committee.
So I'll respond to it on the second half, or do you want to go first, Arch?
Whichever, it's up to the read, please run the meeting.
Second after that.
Go ahead.
So we're paying him for a condition assessment, and that boils down to what I'm talking about. We paid him for this building for a condition assessment, but they left out the foundation the belfry sats on, clearly left it out. And it's gonna cost, it's gonna run, I don't know what it's 50-60% overrun. Yes, our director of facilities did say he did a great job, and at that time we didn't know this situation was gonna arise. And I understand, because I was here, and they were very thankful to her for stepping forward with that. Since then, we have run into this situation, which is going to cost $100,000. I was put on council to keep taxes in control, not to be the nice guy. And I see a runaway train here, and nobody ever has explained to me again how a hydro plant would cost $1 billion to shut
You're
down.
repeating yourself, unless it's something new.
I would like a recorded vote on this, too. I'm done.
We haven't got a motion yet. Your Worship, I just wanted one question. So if I understand from the board, Gary, correctly, so the price for core is $13,250. There's $33.97 in, it's been approved through Heritage Fund. How is this being shared between us, the cost of core, and the 1419 committee? Like, how is the funding working, the mechanism?
I think it was our understanding at the staff level and among the Campaign 1419 committee members that the township would fund the facility condition assessment.
Yes, I do remember
cost in its entirety, so that it wasn't a 60-40 split where the township committed to paying for the assessment.
Yeah. Okay, I'm prepared to make a motion. Just go ahead.
Move the assessment ahead.
Second that.
Deputy Reeves seconds.
And we'll have Councillor Bailey's recorded vote.
Okay.
You want a second? Oh, excuse me.
Oh, Mr. Pointford, are we open for discussion on the motion? I just have a point to make. Sorry, you have to make you've seconded it, right?
Yes, indeed, seconded, Archie made it.
I might have my hand up pretty sure. Discussion?
Discussion.
I just want to say, since we're in open session and media's over there clicking away, Denny, which is great, that I couldn't disagree more with what Councillor Bailey has said, in that working side by side with Mr. Dingman since the beginning of this project, he has been invaluable in saving this township money. He is an expert in his field in heritage buildings, and we have benefited along the way with his expertise and his experience. So I just didn't want to leave the flavor that in any way were we not supportive of using him in future projects. I think that I wanted to just make that clear that obviously any councillor is open to their opinion. We haven't had a chance to hear from those consultants yet in person. They'll be here next week. But we have, I as a staff person working side by side with him, have full faith in him, in this project we have on the go, and in the future one with Memorial Hall.
And in fairness, Your Worship, I took a tour of the roof the other day. I asked Pat if I could go up and have a look at some of the areas, and I can tell you that Mr. Dingman would have been pretty hard pressed to be able to have seen some of the things that he has found. Actually would have been almost impossible unless the township had been willing to spend a substantial amount of money up front to find that out. So I mean, these things do crop up in older buildings. And it's unfortunate, but we have to take care of our heritage buildings. We cannot just let them crumble. There were areas around the foundation of the bell tower that were not accessible that I could pick away with my finger. There was so much dry rot. So, I think we have to be responsible with the property and do our best to take care of them. It's been here, for 200 years. I think hopefully up to the restoration, it's here for quite a bit longer. So,
Well, I will add, Mr. Dingman is an architect. When we got a few things uncovered, he realized there was a few things that a structural engineer was the person that we needed. That's part of why pretty well all contracts have contingencies. Maybe the contingency wasn't big enough, but it's one of the things that we will have to work through. So that, and in working with architects on things, there's always things, once you take the covering off, you see what's underneath, and there's extra work needs to be done. It's a good thing we're getting to the bottom of it and going in to do the things we need to do.
Motion on the floor.
Councillor
Now,
Hallahan?
this $13,250, this is all, I wasn't at that meeting, wasn't able to attend that meeting. That's all we're committed to.
condition
What-
assessment.
That's the condition assessment,
Yeah.
yes.
That's all we're committed to for the,
Well, I don't think I would say that.
Well-
That's for the assessment.
That-
yeah,
I mean, we don't know what
understand
that's
that, but for now.
Yeah.
Any, Gary?
And I think Pat can probably explain it better than I can, but once Mr. Dingman or whoever is chosen, once that assessment is completed, he or she will hand that information and that documentation and those recommendations over to a project architect, who will then undertake the capital portion of campaign 1419. So Mr. Dingman's recommendation may say that, based on a structural engineer's report, that X number of dollars needs to be spent structurally or on HVAC or electrical or fire code or whatever. And then it's the responsibility of the project architect and engineer to carry out those expenditures. So that Mr. Dingman's fee is listed in the report, and he's only being asked to complete the facility condition assessment. The recommendations and directives in his report, but that's going to be somebody else's responsibility. That'll be a separate discussion on expenditures.
Councillor Bailey?
No, it's fine.
Anything else? Oh, Gary, recorded vote was requested.
Okay, so we have, it's moved by Councillor McGowan, seconded by Deputy Reach, to support the recommendation in the staff report. Councillor Hallahan,
Yes.
Councillor McGowan,
Yes.
Councillor Vodden,
Yes.
Councillor Campbell,
Yes.
Councillor Bailey,
No.
Deputy Reach,
Yes.
Reed Vincent.
Yes. Votes carried. Okay, point 3, Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk, Kathy.
Okay, included in your package tonight is the banner hanging policy. Now, council in the past did review this policy, but at that time, no formal motion was made to approve the policy because we were still waiting to have the banner poles erected in order that we could use them. And I think all that work has been completed to date. And Kelly, if anybody has any questions regarding the poles, I think Kelly can answer those questions. So what we're looking for tonight now is for council to pass a motion to officially adopt the banner policy, because we have had some requests to hang some banners in the future. So we're just looking for a motion tonight if council is happy with that policy.
Councillor McGowan and Councillor Hallahan seconds. Discussion? Deputy Reid.
I wonder if this policy just applies to Wingham, or if it applies to all of North Huron, and if it doesn't apply to all of North Huron, I think it should.
At this time, it only applies to Wingham because we're the only ones with banner poles. Wingham is the only one right now that has banner poles. So if we would put out banner poles in the other two wards, we would probably have to change the policy.
In Blythe, I know that there has been discussion about putting poles in, and so I would say that it would be prudent to have the policy apply to all of North Huron
When polls are available.
when poles are available.
I agree with that.
So you're happy to pass this policy with wording changes that we,
Mover and seconder. Look at that as a friendly
Yes.
amendment. Any more discussion? All in favor? Carried.
thank you.
Okay, point 4, Director of Recreation and Facilities, update on Recreation and Facilities Department. Pat?
Thank you. Most of the information was just more of an update on some of the projects that are ongoing. The ballpark revitalization project is well on its way and starting tomorrow. There's no more ball played at that park and the fence will be torn out. And Public Works Department is working alongside with us to accomplish this, and then the fencing company will be getting started right away to meet the target of September 28th for a grand reopening of the park. And we've met with Libro and they're on board. They'll be hosting a barbecue that day, and all donations will go to the Ball Association, and it should be quite a nice project when it's done. So we're just working on the final details of all of that with our youth committee, and they'll actually be attending council in September later to present council with a certificate that they received from Libro. So we'll be looking forward to that night. I have copies here of the Fall Rec and Leisure Guide, which is now out. So if anybody doesn't have one, of course, please take one and pass them on. This way. And they were delivered in everybody's flyers last week that go to the homes. There's approximately 7,000 copies that are delivered in our area, and we've been promoting and marketing that it is out, and we are now taking registrations for the fall programs, which we feel we have a great lineup of fall programs, everything on the ice, the fitness. We have some new great programs. We've reached out to the Blythe community with a boot camp class. We have a Tai Chi in there in Blythe, and so we're just looking forward to doing as much as we can offer. And we've had some great volunteers from the community come up and help. We're now going to be able to do indoor pickleball because of a volunteer who has offered to take on that. We have a new instructor for adult skating lessons and moving into more older adult programming. So we're very excited about this. It's a move in the right direction along with North Huron strategic plan. I think most everything else is in my report. I just wanted to add, we're also really excited. The school in Blythe, the owners of the school, have donated a number of large trees to the municipality, and they're paying to move those into our campground. So we're very excited about that. I think it's 6 or 7 of their large trees. They're paying to move them into some areas of the campground that need some shade. So we're really ecstatic about that. That should be happening any day if it hasn't already started already. There's 3 done. I knew that they were on their way to getting started. So we're really going to support that and water them and hope that they take in their new home. I just wanted to, is there any other questions? That's what's going on in my report and with the rec department.
Councillor
I
Vaughn.
just want to check on whether one of those trees is the royal oak.
Is a royal oak tree? I remember that being on the
Right
list.
beside
I'll
the
check.
entrance is an oak tree that was provided by Queen Elizabeth,
Oh,
the Queen Mother. And it's-
Well, it's one that's about that big around.
Well, not quite. That's the way you measure fish. But I would hate to see that kind of risk on a tree that's very, very special.
I know there are some trees staying, and there are trees that, it's an arborist who has come in and recommended what trees could be moved, and we're in the way of the future projects there. But I can find that out if that tree is one of them or not, for sure. I just can't remember the list off the top of my head, all the trees. I took a tour of them.
When that project is completed, I think it would be incumbent upon us to let her thank you for getting the money, but we will wait till it's completed. Anything else? Okay. Are we figuring on doing for the utility department, or?
Let's wait till. But I want to speak to the Senator's report.
Okay, moving ahead with CAO speaking to the utility report.
Okay, thank you, Reed. Just item number 7 in Don Nicholson's report. This is regarding the Grandview redevelopment, County Road 25 and Highway 4, specifically extending services or reconnecting services to that development. I should note that I am meeting with my counterpart in Central Huron tomorrow at 1 o'clock to talk about this issue and some other North Huron, Central Huron issues of mutual interest. Both Don and I believe that going forward we need to create a cross-border services agreement that would formalize the existing arrangements that we have. Currently, we provide services to a few properties just across the border. Some it's water only, some it's just sewer. There's a couple of water and sewer hookups. These arrangements have existed for quite some time. There's nothing wrong with them. However, it would be prudent for us and prudent for Central Huron to formalize these arrangements in an actual agreement, a cross-border services agreement. That would outline everybody's obligations and expectations. It would outline the cost of connecting into the system. And I've had this discussion with Don, but I've also had this discussion with Peggy Van Mierlo West from Central Huron, and she would also like to formalize our existing servicing arrangements. We also feel that an agreement like this positions us and Central Huron to entertain other development possibilities, whether they be Blythe or across the way in Hullett Township. So we'll be discussing this tomorrow, but Don and I wanted to let council know that we are having discussions with Central Huron about reconnecting services to this development. And we will be receiving a formal request from Central Huron. We are just doing some back and forth at the moment.
Councillor Bailey?
We're having conversations with Morris Turnbull about the same thing, and I'm gonna presume we're gonna go down the same road we're going down with them, so that we treat all our neighbors equal. We're not looking at.
Councillor Wyden?
I think Don wanted us to move an acceptance of his report as presented, so I so move.
Wyden?
I'll second.
McGowan?
Oh, okay.
All in favor? Carried. Okay. Anything in new business? Okay. Council information, and council may bring forward information for discussion. Councilor McGowan?
When in the checklist thing, there's an amount for a roof assessment. I wondered, Pat, if you could speak to that. I could sort of read it was partially cut off. I think it's partially Blythe and then some for Wingham. I'm hoping it was the arena.
Right. So this year we're having 3 thorough roof condition assessments done. One on Blythe Memorial Hall, one on the, 4. One on the Blythe Community Center, completing that roof project. And then we had one done on the Wingham Public Works Shed. So So those 3 are complete, and I have those reports. The 4th one for the North Huron West Cuts Community Complex is scheduled for September. So when we get that, we'll have a full idea of budgets for next year and scope of work that's required. But they're very thorough and provide excellent sort of caretaking of our roofs that have been assessed and costs associated with that.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Bailey.
On the checks payable on page, actually it's 1, but it's quite a ways into it. You see we have a safety shirt, doesn't matter who bought it. I'm just curious here, we have food allowances, and do we have clothing allowances too, which I thought we did, but it seems to be cropping up more and more that we seem to be going in and buying as the year goes by. So how does that work? We give our employees X amount of money and that's to do for clothing, but then we turn around and in this place it's a safety shirt. Can you explain that, how that works?
Where's the shirt? We're trying to find it on here.
Oh, it's on page 1 and it's for,
On the very first page?
well, not according to this, it's page 1, but it's in there. It's a workshop, it's for Dawn, it's safety shirt for Dawn for $27.40.
Oh, it's down in the water. Okay.
Oh, it's in the water.
Immaterial who it's for, we see
Right.
this creeping up all the time, and my question is, if we have a clothing allowance, then that should cover the clothing off. Or how many times are we buying safety shirts? Are we buying 15 a year or 10? Is there any tracking of this?
It's whenever they need to get them. That we don't say January, they all get them. It's whenever they need them, and that allowance is in the budget, and that they can grab up to that amount whenever they need to pick up the shirt.
Kathy would probably be better to answer the policy question.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it, but or we all could, but it's a HR policy.
Right. Each full-time employee is allocated a clothing allowance each year, but they don't actually spend it themselves. The department heads, supervisors are in charge of making sure that their employees have appropriate health and safety clothing, and it's all tracked. I have to track it all, what is being purchased for each employee, to make sure it doesn't go over the limit. And then any employee who doesn't spend their allowance at the end of the year gets a check for their allowance. But there are circumstances that come up in some of the departments that the health and safety clothing does, for some reason, with acid or chainsaws or whatever does get torn, we have to replace it. But we do allocate so much employee, and it is all in there, yes.
Thank you, Kathy.
So just to clarify, just one question. Councilor Bailey made it sound like it was creeping up and up, so we're not going over. We're within the allowable
We'll
amount.
stay with it.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hallahan?
So Kathy, how much is his allowance
$130.
per person?
Which doesn't include safety fees. It's $100. And only certain employees get safety fees in certain departments, not all employees.
Vincent? On point number 2, that I personally would like to know a lot more of the specifics and sizing and the measurements of things that are happening there. Just the general information that we officially have as yet doesn't give me near enough to make an educated decision on good, bad, or indifferent.
I think it would be interesting to have, and I know there will be a public meeting at some point to raise those questions at. I know it's looking for preliminary drawings, areas where snow dumps are and different things like that, and lot lines. I think, there's probably a lot of questions, not being unsupportive of the project, but just questions in general. So I would agree, I look forward to that.
Deputy Reeve?
Just to comment on it, most of the complaints that I have received so far on this project are from Central Huron and not from North Huron. I've had 1 complaint, or 2 complaints from North Huron, about 5 or 6 from Central.
Hi, Mary. Just on point number 2 and the Grandview redevelopment. I had a conversation with my counterpart in Central Huron to discuss the importance of advertising public meetings in the Citizen as this redevelopment proposal, which is in Hull Township, is on the border, it impacts the village of Blythe. Therefore, it's important that our residents in Blythe be aware of any public meetings to do with any development proposals in Hull Township. So she agreed with that. The Citizen was not left out, but she has had a discussion with Central Huron's planning assistant and their planner to say if there's developments bordering on North Huron and the village of Blythe, let's make sure that public meeting notices are in the Citizen as well. So we've had that discussion.
Okay. Councillor Lodge.
I'd like to bring attention to item number 11, request for support from the Township of Baldwin. This is one of the many communities in Canada that has fewer than 5,000 people. They're in the same boat that we are. And in many aspects, I think we have many advantages over them, but I think that all communities of that size have a real challenge, and that they try to provide a reasonable array of programs and services, but it's very, very difficult to reach that level without an exorbitant amount of cost going on in the tax roll. So I would like to support their request that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and other departments be encouraged to look at the specific circumstances of small communities who often don't feel that they have a voice to even ask for things, but they really need a special level of attention in terms of funding and other kinds of amenities in order to operate an effective program for their citizens, but at the same time without going into huge debt.
I'll second the motion. Have support.
Discussion?
I won't be supporting this motion because in the article they sent us, they had me right till they hit this part. This would allow for additional monies to be collected by the provinces. They're just simply saying that they don't want to put the taxes over on the people, but they're allowing the province to put the taxes over on the people. They're not asking the province to cut back on taxes or give us some of the money that they're generating. So for that reason, I couldn't, they're just passing this on to another level of government to collect the taxes.
Deputy Reeve?
In response to Councillor Bailey's comment, they're talking about the province collecting money from the unorganized townships, and those unorganized townships pay their tax dollars directly to the province. And in this way, it would allow the province or force the province to collect more taxes from the unorganized townships, so that they're paying more of the fair share cost of the services that the organized townships provide to them.
Good luck.
Just for information, I lived in an unorganized township a number of years ago. My tax bill to the province was $17 a year for 160 acres, which was, I thought that was great, but it's certainly not fair. The other thing that is behind this is the fact that we hear billions and billions of dollars being spent out for transit and for all kinds of special services to the cities, large and mediocre, and they think that that's a right. The province has to cough up money for that. We don't have transit, and yet we're in a really vulnerable position with our services getting farther and farther away from where people live, with more services being centralized in other places and not even available in our township. And so we have special needs, and I think that ought to be recognized. And yes, it should come from the province. Thank you.
Anything further in discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Any other points that you want brought forward for special consideration? For point number 8, with rural economic development being started up again in the rural affairs, I have the booklet, but I haven't got through it yet to see how closely the new RED program follows what the old one was. If nothing else, receive, order, and file. Biden and Campbell. All in favor? Carried. In the correspondence, there's a thank you from here in Perth Children's Aid Society, Maitland Trail newsletter, Ontario On-Site Wastewater Association's on-site newsletter, so that receive, order, and file them as well. Let's see, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to committee reports, Wingham BIA, there's reports there.
Your Worship, if you know, I'd like to make a motion to send a letter to the Wingham BIA executive thanking them for their hard work with the 2 projects that were outlined here this evening.
I'm accepting that as a motion. Deputy Reeve Reach seconds. All in favor? Carried. Anything else on Wingham BIA?
I'm sorry, I can't find my copy of that here, but there was an expression that I wanted clarification on. It said something about paying why. Does someone have that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll ask it.
Okay. Moving to bylaws then. Bylaw number 56, 2013, being a bylaw to authorize the Township of North York to authorize an amendment to the fire agreement for fire suppression services with the municipality of Morris Turnberry, as approved in bylaw number 29, 2013. McGowan and Campbell. Any discussion? For those in the gallery, it's an adjustment of the time start to make it flow better with fire services, basically starting 11 days sooner. All those in favor? Carried. Council reports and inquiries. Councilor Hallahan.
Yeah, I had a request from a number of Clyde residents it's about Wellington Street in front of the Lions Club Park from London Road to Gypsy Lane. And they have some concerns over the speed of the traffic and the amount of traffic on that section, and they wanted it to be made as a community safety zone. It's where the wading pool is. There's a lot of small children there. I talked to Kelly Church, and Kelly said it has to be done by bylaw. So, do I make a motion then for it to proceed as a bylaw, or do we just do the bylaw? Just do a bylaw and pass it?
Either that or
Just have discussion.
have Kelly put together the report as to a recommendation, including speeds, etc. You're making that,
Motion, yes.
seconder? Deputy Reeve? Discussion?
Make sure that the speed sign that the CHIP program has gets put up on that street within the next 2 weeks. And we'll get the actual speeds of the cars going down that road.
Okay, Gary?
I just want to confer with our corporate services director. Is it possible, Kathy, that the OPP committee liaison could be informed of this council discussion to see if a more active police presence could be there?
Right.
Now, normally, if this changes to it's just going to get complicated, but normally what does it take to get the community safety zone? It's now we're getting signs, police, like, is it complicated?
We'll go to Councilor McGowan.
I don't think it's complicated in the sense that they can adjust I think the last time we did them in Wingham, and I think we did one before in July, did we, for the school area or the crossing? But you put it in your bylaw, it has to obviously be run by the policing agency at first. And then it may be a little bit more challenging in July, it's just due to the fact that there isn't a constant police present in the village. It's something that you communicate through the community policing liaison officer and then have them, monitor during whatever peak periods there might be for enforcement.
So we have a community safety zone in Blythe already?
I'm not sure. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm thinking of two of them.
I think it was talked about, but it was never, the bylaw was never done.
I can't recall any discussion here, and I can't remember seeing any signs.
Kathy?
Staff is currently in the process of updating our traffic and parking bylaw because of there's a few changes to it because of the signage at this Wingham Public School, Blythe Public School, and East Wallingford School. We don't need some specific signage in those areas now, and we need to put new restrictions in the bylaw for the new Maiden River Elementary School. So we are working on revisions to the bylaw now. So if council so wishes to designate a community safety zone in the village of Blythe, there is an appendice in the current bylaw that outlines the community safety zones, and so it would be a matter of council passing a motion to amend the bylaw to include community safety zone in that area, and the Public Works Department erecting the proper signage, and then any police force can enforce that speed limit just if it's signed properly.
I'll make that motion.
We had the motion to go ahead with it is basically it's still going ahead. And this may be a little bit of an
There is a
amendment.
motion on the
There
floor.
is a motion.
To have staff prepare a report on this issue.
Yeah, to have the report and things put together that we need to do, and the order we need to do.
So why don't we just defeat that motion and then bring Ray's motion forward, and let's move this along?
Your worship, in fairness,
No.
a point of order, that motion is really made to bring the proposal forward, in which time council can vote on the bylaw. I don't think we need to go through the semantics of defeating a motion. This is what Councillor Hallahan, I think, is aiming for, that he wants.
He wants the process started to
Exactly
be
what
able to do
Kathy
it.
said.
Yeah,
So that's what the motion was on the floor, really.
yeah. Further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Carried.
Okay, we'll make this one easier. The school reunion, we had a school reunion at the Memorial Park it was called USS number 3 East One Ashland Morris yesterday. We held it, some come up to this park, but we held it at the Lions Club Park. Very successful. It was was only a handful of people that wasn't there. That school closed in 1958. So, the committee are wondering about erecting a plaque, so. Can we get permission from council to erect a plaque up there? Yes.
I was just going to comment, you're talking about Children's Memorial Park site,
Yes.
right? Because there's the back side of the sign that we've often talked about putting content on there, whether you want it to be a plaque or whether we want it to be something, the history of the space or something on the back of that. That's just another spot that it could go in that space, if that accomplishes what you're looking for. It's another idea, way to go. Or a plaque.
Yeah, the committee had proposed a plaque. A bronze plaque.
We could look into some costs maybe, of how big of a plaque we can.
Oh,
Right.
we're not asking for any money.
No,
We do it by donation.
Yeah.
Plaques under.
just some permission to put it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We did, Your Worship,
Go ahead.
does the committee know where they want to place the plaque? Exactly.
On a stone, is what we
Oh, okay.
suggested.
I take a motion to approve placement once the fundraising is done of the plaque in conjunction, it's communicated with the Director of Parks and Recreation, if that's in her purvey.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
No,
I was-
somebody second.
We were updating the park,
I'll second.
grass cutting discussion here, I'm sorry.
It'll all be,
I'll do whatever you say.
see, you can talk during class.
McGowan and Campbell. All in favor of the motion, or,
I'd like to make, I'd just like to make a comment.
okay, sorry.
We were at that event yesterday. It was amazing. Think of a school that quite often had no more than 12 students. This huge crowd showed up yesterday. Very well organized, terrific organization, and enjoyable too. They're to be congratulated, and I'm sure they'll have no trouble organizing a fundraising for the plaque and whatever else.
We were just so well behaved.
Oh, yeah.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, we have no in favor. Councillor Campbell.
One of our neighbors that's beside the gravel pit down at the south end of our municipality would like permission to take logs out of his bush, Mr. Don Schultz, take logs out of his bush through the gravel pit in the township. It's the easiest way for him to get out, and he just wants to make sure that we can do this.
Councillor
Through
McGowan.
you, Your Worship, to Councillor Campbell, I wonder if you might indicate to him if he puts a letter in writing to us, just so there's a paper trail, and then I'm sure there wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I was talking to Kelly about it this morning, and there's.
I just think there
room
should
to
be
do all
something in
this,
writing.
and Go ahead.
Kevin?
I would agree that a letter would be something that we would want, just to clarify that he's going to clean up any of the mess that, which we discussed today.
Yeah.
Okay. Deputy Reeve.
Back earlier this summer, we passed a motion to open the East Wabanach landfill site for 2 days a month, and I wonder if we could have a report at our next council meeting on the amount of usage and the amount of garbage that went into the East Wabanach landfill site on the extra day, and if it was worthwhile opening it so that we can make a good decision for the next budget season.
Brock.
I have a question for Gary. I'm wondering if, in this talk with Peggy, if they're going to discuss the landfill issue.
Sure.
That's tomorrow, right?
Well, I thought that was
Very good.
Isn't that Thursday?
That's a broader discussion of the county policy and so on. This is a specific issue about the fly color.
Anything else from council? Okay, moving forward, the clerk administrator's report.
Thank you, Reeve. Just a couple things for council's information. I received a note from Donna White, our Director of Finance. She's not available tonight, but wanted to inform council that the electric vehicle charging unit has been purchased outright at a cost of $3,000 versus a total lease cost of about $3,600. We have an extended warranty purchased. And this was increased to 5 years at no extra cost. We can also confirm that the unit has arrived, and a recommendation will be coming from staff on an installation location. Also wanted to mention that last week I was approached by Phil Beard, General Manager of the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, about our interest in partnering with the University of Guelph and their fourth year landscape architect students. Last year, the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority and the University of Guelph's landscape architecture program worked together on a conceptual plan in North Perth, in Listowel specifically. It was a great community project, generated a lot of interest, and so Phil contacted me last week to see if North Huron would be interested in partnering with the authority as well as the University of Guelph landscape architecture program to see if we'd be interested in having fourth-year students come to North Huron, specifically Wingham, to develop a landscape conceptual plan for the house and dam, the bridge, and the area along the river for some time this fall. I indicated that we would be very interested in that partnership. The only cost to the township would be the cost of bringing the students to North Huron for a day, so some bus costs, and that cost would be shared with the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. I've had some preliminary discussions with our Director of Recreation Facilities. She's supportive of this partnership as well. Just wanted to make you aware of this, and we think it's great news for the community. So just so I'm clear, just so we're clear, this would only be a conceptual plan. There'd be maps, there'd be drawings, there'd be boards for the public to view, a conceptual plan. They're not undertaking the actual work. It's a conceptual plan that the township and the community could look at and perhaps look at doing down the road sometime. Just wanted to confirm council support for that.
I suppose this is probably similar to the Heritage project that we did a number of years ago with the University of Waterloo, I believe it was.
Yes.
Dr. Shipley, where the students made presentations, both in print and is that the idea? I think it would be very worthwhile.
Even though it's minimal, I think a council motion of support would be good for this if we were to go ahead. Wadman and Campbell, further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Okay, thank you. And I also had an email exchange with the professor at the University of Guelph to express our interest in this partnership and that I would make council aware of this invitation. I'll get back to him this week to confirm or to express some council support. A couple of the things I wanted to share my time with Connie Goodall, our Economic Development Officer. Connie?
Okay, I just wanted to update you on a few things that have really been going on. Doug Kuyvenhoven being here this evening talked about a great project that's going on with the WBIA. There's a couple other things they're doing. You will probably notice that there are some new signage in some of the windows in Wingham, that they're actually replacing as many of the old for rent neon orange signs as possible, replacing them with barn board frames and putting a more tasteful for renter property available. In the windows, I noticed that some of those were actually done tonight. There is one across the street at the bakery right now. So that was another thing that that Curb Appeal crew is doing. They're going down holiday. They've done a lot of work. It's been excellent. The Wingham BIA is also hosting an outdoor movie night this Saturday evening, August 31st at dusk in the Foodland parking lot. This is the one that was rained out from the beginning of the summer. I believe that the movie is Wiener Dog Trials. Looks fun, but anyway, if you're available to attend, that would be great. But the last time the WBIA did this in conjunction with the Digger Downtown wrap-up, we had a great turnout. A lot of families, senior citizens. It was awesome. It was just a great family event. So that's going on, hopefully, if it doesn't rain this Saturday night. The Alice Munro Festival is coming up. I have left a copy of the poster of events on your desk. I do have tickets for all of those events, or most of those events, if you're interested. I know Reed Vincent and I have expressed to you in the past about what a great weekend we thought it was last year. This year, the Alice Munro Festival, the writing competition itself has received 112 submissions. That is actually about double that from last year. They've received submissions from all across Canada, and there has been some international entries as well. So it's very, very exciting. The judges, I don't know, I think they will retire after this year. We'll have to find some new ones, but it's been very, very good. And with Mary Beth Van Bean's help this summer, she was the summer student for economic development. We were able to update and flesh out our list of available properties so we can respond quicker to requests for information. Responses from the resident survey are also being compiled, and this will give us more information to share with potential investors in our area. As directed by our strategic plan to utilize more accessible, timely communications that will appeal to a variety of audiences, we are continuing to use Facebook and Twitter to communicate with residents and community partners. On Facebook, and just to give an example of numbers, on Facebook, 112 people saw the last notice of Wingham's hydrant flushing. 331 saw the note regarding Wingham Minor Soccer Attending Council here a couple of weeks ago, and the thank you that was sent to them. So that was shared to 331 people. 433 people saw the notice regarding North Huron's warming centers in March. So it is just actually being used, and those seem to be the types of posts that are actually getting further spread. So it's very, very interesting just to see what is getting the more shares and readership on them. So we'll probably start, kind of tailoring what we share on Facebook and Twitter, because we have two different audiences on Facebook and Twitter. So tailoring our messages to who's reading them. Twitter, we currently have 220 followers. The number of that on those reach depends entirely on the amounts of retweets that we receive on our posts. So sometimes we get quite a few retweets. So it's very, very good. Like I say, very, very different audience, very different followers on Twitter than we do on Facebook. So we're reaching to very, very new and different audiences. I will be meeting with the new economic development assistant from Morris Turnberry this Friday to talk about, working together, sharing resources, potential partnerships. I'm very excited to meet her. Working just to talk about what we can do to promote the area together. Homecoming, I'm not going to talk a lot about them. They are coming, I know, in the next month or so to give you an update themselves. I just want to share with you that 2 bar crews have gone out. A crew went to Mildmay Homecoming, and a joint crew with the Music of Muskrat Festival went to Music in the Fields this past Saturday night. We sent 17 people from Wingham over, and so next year when Homecoming, we'll be getting a Mildmay bar crew over. We were getting a Music in the Fields bar crew here, and they've also talked about doing a partnership with Ripley, who is also having their homecoming next year. So there's a lot of stuff happening with that committee as well. You will see tonight and tomorrow night their storefront window, which is actually in the former Baby Boom building, is actually going up, and they're going to start to put their stuff in there. Share their merchandise that's going to be available for Christmas, in time for Christmas, and things like You'll also notice that there is a sign up on 86 advertising homecoming. That was on the property of Luke Lockridge, so they are another dynamic group that is really seeing things happen. So very excited that I get to work with a lot of great volunteer groups in this position. So.
I also wanted to share my time with our Director of Fire and Emergency Services.
Thanks, Gary. Just a couple of quick things. Just so council can follow the flow of information from me, it'd be my intention to have a report from the Fire Department of North Huron for the first council meeting of each month. So there's some consistency to when you get that information. As well, I've been speaking with Gary. We have 3 firefighters retiring, 2 due to health reasons, 1 just because it's time. Those 3 firefighters have over 90 years of fire service between the 3 of them. And as such, we'd like to have a fitting farewell to them. I think it's appropriate to community acknowledge them in the fire department. At the same time, we've got a crew of recruits who have completed all the requirements and are due to be sworn in. And we're looking at October 16th in Belgrade for that. There is a video that we've discussed, not to be out with Doug Hyvenhoven. The county provided a videographer for the mock disaster who took a number of various clips and video throughout the event and consolidated down to about, 6 minutes, 5 minutes of footage as to what they actually did for the day. And I think it's a good synopsis of the day's activities.
Just a second. Do you want to just keep talking, David? I'll just...
Welcome to council, Dave.
He sings. You sing?
That's my wife.
Oh.
Can you
Bonnie wants to say something.
If I can ask a question, can you confirm that date of the swearing in?
October 16th.
Will the 3 retiring be at that same time?
Yes.
Or is that something different?
Yes. We've tried to check dates that would work for them, and that date suits their calendar. So.
Just keep talking, David. Do you want to just share your experiences on a personal level and a professional level from the mock disaster?
Certainly. I think for our whole fire service, a large-scale mock disaster such as happened in July is something new. Working with other fire services is not how it was there, but a large-scale event like that was something new. For us, we took what we had takeaways in terms of things we need to work a little bit on training, but as a generalized statement, we came away feeling pretty good about our training we've been doing. And I think for us, the biggest takeaway is that if an event like that was to come, we know it'll be challenging, but we'll feel like we've got the skills and the training to manage it in an effective manner. At the end of the day, I think as a fire chief, that's all we really want to know is if something big hits, we have the ability to manage it. We certainly have that big feeling that we're in a good position on. More?
Yeah, that's good, Dave. Yeah, that was good.
You need a karaoke machine or something here. Yeah.
It said on the screen that it was powering off.
Yeah. Pat, did you need double A batteries? I think this is the problem. Or a ladder, or an 8-foot ladder. One or the other.
There's some batteries in there.
Here. Here we go.
It's in.
Here we go.
Okay.
Hey, wait, you did it. Shut it off.
Busy in case you do a flash.
That's good, Dave. You can stop now. It's great.
Okay, you got power here.
Start.
Okay, we're all set?
She said we needed a video. Need sound?
There is some occasionally.
This event is an opportunity for our Medquest students who are in high school, the opportunity to play victims in a scenario that's been planned out by municipalities, the firefighters, and a number of different first responder organizations in order to test their emergency plans as well as develop some of their skill sets and give them a safe opportunity to do their training. The setup of the event was taking place in order to give the environment of a downburst.
Our hope was that we could work with our surrounding municipalities. We brought in MedQuest, Ontario Hydro, and we built a realistic simulation of what it would look like to have a tornado come through a conservation area. In doing so, we had approximately 25 injured students, actors that were done up with makeup. We relied on the OPP, EMS for Huron County. We had a bunch of evaluators that were walking around, judging, seeing where we can improve for the future, so that if we can learn any mistakes from this, we're better prepared should it happen again in North Huron.
So the disaster is that the storm struck while a group of kids was at their last soccer practice. And so my role is I'm the parent chaperone who thought that everyone needed to get on the bus. But the storm struck too soon and I ended up being crushed by it. So all of the injuries that we're seeing are caused by the storm.
Well, I'm supposed to be out here fishing on my day off, like I do every week. And then the downpour happens and I get the fence post through the shoulder and the fishing hook goes in my cheek. And hopefully it'll come and find me soon, but if not, I'll be sitting on here for a while. I took the trip yesterday, so I just reviewed what's wrong with me and how I'm supposed to act about it. And then came here, got makeup, and here I am.
The 2 hours that we run this thing, we probably put at least a good 20, 30 hours into it. That involves meeting with EMS and everyone, and then for us, the medical students, we set up all of the patient profiles, their illnesses, what their vitals would be, and how they would progress if their illness wasn't treated, and then kind of seeing how they would react to EMS and creating their character.
Help my son! Help him, he's really hurt! No, help him, he's hurt!
I have an officer with me, okay? Alright, I'm going to call you right now, okay?
The training that this offers, it's a very safe environment for the different players to get a sense of how they work together and how they deal with certain situations before this kind of a disaster might actually happen. So they're able to test out a lot of those kind of, it's like communications very often.
After the meeting, say that she hit her head. You able to get it up well? It's okay.
I want you to kind of go to that man over there in the yellow blanket for me. Here, I'm going to get you something here first. Every person who's working here, be it a first responder or public works, chances are they'll deal with something in their career that kind of stresses them. With this scenario, they're dealing with 25 patients, a lot of trees down, overturned buses. This is, I hate to say worst case, but it's not certainly a good case scenario.
The Township of North Huron, the Township of Howick, and the municipality of Morris Turnberry decided to team together with the County of Huron and Health Kick to fulfill our requirement for 2013. It was a valuable training exercise for all municipalities, holding a realistic exercise involving multi-agencies. All three municipalities in the county opened their emergency operations center for their respective municipalities. We were linked via webcam and the live broadcast from the disaster site.
We're just in Huron County, I guess. We had a disaster here, kind of like a real-life disaster here a couple years ago, and doing this from now on is a way that they can practice and work out all the kinks in how
how they operate, and to find themselves in unexpected situations. It gives them the training, especially for volunteers, to give them the kind of training that they won't get anywhere else.
For MedQuest students, it gives them a real opportunity to see in action first responders. And since they're interested in medical and healthcare careers, they need to see the interwovenness of the relationships of first responders and the types of careers that maybe they're interested in.
It's going to make them better and stronger moving forward. And it's also built partnerships where, you know, Wingham Police versus OPP, they're working together. Howick, North Huron, Morris Huron-Barrie Fire are all working together as a group, and it builds a good communication.
So, just one question, is a copy of that going off the EMO? I think that would be something that really should benefit from seeing. You know, how these small communities can hold that size of a mock disaster and carry it out so well.
Well, EMO staff was present at the day.
Actually, there will be an EMO sector meeting this fall in October, and this video will be on the agenda. This video is on the North Huron website. The video is being shared among the 13 different agencies that took part in that day. So, any other comments on that?
No, just an excellent day, and our firefighters well know when they get to do the next one. Yes, Mark.
That's all I had. There's 4 items for in-camera advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, specifically airport land lease. Item 2 is a personal matter about an identifiable individual, specifically a consultant town hall project. We have a personnel matter about an identifiable individual, specifically Fire Department North Huron, and we have a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, Wingham property.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go in camera? For public gallery questions, comments? Danny?
Chief, the deputy. I was just wondering how many recruits you have.
Being sworn in, I believe there are 4, and we've got another class coming up again after that that's 8, so we've got a lot of recruits through the system.
Go ahead.
Trevor?
For you too, Gary, is there any other agreements that we haven't yet finalized? Because you did formalize any, do we go through that kind of process to make sure that we don't have any verbal agreements written out there? Because obviously with that verbal agreements, there's always that possibility of not everybody understands the verbal. So, do we have any other verbal agreements out there that we think we need to formalize more?
Certainly none come to mind, but myself and our directors are always on the lookout for arrangements that may have been a handshake 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. And if there's an arrangement like that, there's not many. I can't think of any right now. We certainly want to formalize those arrangements and have a legal agreement which outlines everybody's expectations and obligations. Typically, we would have our solicitor review those agreements. And we want to take this very seriously and outline everybody's responsibilities and obligations.
Yeah, I think that's good. Question actually through you, to Kathy, about the tax, the allowance. I guess my question is, or even my comment is, so if they don't use the allowance, they actually get that paid in physical money? And this is for health and safety?
No, it's a clothing allowance.
It's a clothing allowance specifically, just an overall clothing allowance?
Right, but most departments do use theirs out in health and safety clothing. Not all departments require health and safety clothing, but if they do get health and safety clothing, then it's part of their allowance.
So I guess my question is, and this is, I may be cynical in the idea of, If I'm given a clothing allowance and I don't use it, what gives me the right to get a check from the municipality for $100, $50, whatever, to go and not spend it on what it's actually used for? So,
I guess when the allowance was introduced, it was to make it, it's for full-time employees only, it's not for part-time employees, it's only for full-time employees, was to make it fair to those employees, for instance, our daycare girls who aren't required to wear health and safety clothing or specific uniform, but have as much wear and tear on their clothing because of their exposure to the children and paint and whatever, just to make it fair to them that they were also getting an allowance for their clothing. Although it isn't specified what they spend it on, you know. So it,
again, just my comment is, if it's meant for work-related or clothing allowance, to me, I don't see the relevance in giving a person a check that they can spend on anything they want. I can see the relevance of carrying it over for a year, and if they don't use it, great, then it's lost. I think if you give somebody a check for $100 or $50, the chance of it getting used for good in the municipality are, they may use it in the municipality, or they may not. So, and again, I don't know how many employees that would relate to, if that's 200 or 400.
They all wear clothing.
Well, I understand that. I understand it. It's not municipal, like, it's not used for the municipality, and that's taxpayer money. So, that's just my comment.
it's actually only, it affects about maybe 40 employees altogether, and very few get checks. Most throughout the course of the year buy a sweater with a logo on it or a jacket
So,
or
So me not knowing how many people that employ, 40 people, and it's conversations that so that's it. Me.
Okay. Danny?
To Gary or to Pat through yourself, why was the matter with Huron Geomatics and the drawing deferred till next week exactly?
I think we're just trying to get some technical information back from Huron Geomatics to understand the deliverables on the drawings and trying to get a real understanding of what those costs will be. So we just don't have that technical data back yet, and once we do, we'll be able to make a better recommendation for council.
Anything else from the gallery? Okay, motion to go in camera. Campbell and Roach. All in favor? Carried.